motherfucker, you can't have my cornbread. That's for damn sure. Because if you try to take my cornbread, part 2 of my killing spree gonna begin up in here on your ass right now. If you think about my cornbread, they get the taste out your mouth. That's for damn sure. Now fuck him. Fuck that. Because I'm from New York City, goddammit. Nobody take no cornbread from me. That go for you and any other you motherfucking farmers wanna try some shit. You fuck around with me, it's gonna be consequences and repercussions.
Haters gonna hate. And ain'ters gonna ain't.
What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Barbershop Sports Talk Podcast. I want to say a quick shout out to all of our Facebook Live viewers right now. Make sure y'all follow the Facebook page, and also to our YouTube Live viewers. Shout out to you guys as well. Make sure y'all continue to follow the YouTube page, subscribe to the channel. And you can also follow us on our social media on Instagram at Barbershop Sports Talk Podcast, and also on Twitter at Barbershop SPOR2. I'm Trey, Fraser. That man over there is Maestro Styles.
Yes, sir.
How we living, man? What's good? What's good?
I'm good, baby. Spending money, man.
Yeah.
Spending money, spending that STEMI, man. We good, man.
There we go. That's what's up. Just what's up? What's good?
I mean, I just gotta tell you what's on my mind, man. First and foremost, I know I just gotta get straight to it. Rest in peace to Elgin Baylor, man.
No doubt.
I am not gonna lie. I will be honest. I had no clue that he was from DC until he passed. I had no clue.
Spingarn High School, right?
Spingarn High School, which was right. I was lived down the street from there. I had no clue that this dude was from Washington D.C. Rest in peace to the legend. I feel like he's not in the conversations. Like when we talk about DMV sports players, we have a legend. I feel like he's never talked about when you talk about sports legends in D.C. He is officially a part of my conversation.
Yeah, I tell you what, man. You learning something new. I'm learning something new. I had no idea either until you posted the high school jersey that he wore from Spingarn High School. Which, by the way, shout out to them, because I remember visiting that high school one day, and Kevin Durant had a pickup game there. One summer afternoon, and me and a couple of homies had a chance to go and watch him play over at Spingarn. So shout out to them. Yeah, for sure. But I had no idea either that he was from
I had
DC.
no clue.
And obviously he's synonymous in NBA circles, particularly with the Lakers. And I hear this all the time, especially when someone like Stephen A. talks about the Lakers and their past, that Elgin Baylor never won a championship with the Lakers. Like, is that, am I getting that accurate?
I'm not. Well, I would say it had to be, because when I went Wikipedia and them after I found out he was from DC, and no mention of a championship, 11-time All-Star, and made first team NBA, and all those things, but no, did not win a championship. In LA.
So it must have been them running into the Celtics all those years.
Probably, but rest in peace, man. The cause of his death had not been released, as far as I know. I didn't see it anywhere. For certain, rest in peace to the legend, the DC legend, Elgin Baylor, 86 years old.
No doubt, no doubt. Shout out to Mocha Bella in the chat. Also, shout out to Big Kev 30 who's in our Facebook Live chat.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
y'all. A1 day ones from the jump. I do want to, give a shout out too. This is non-sports related, but I definitely want to say condolences to the families that lost those 10 individuals out in Boulder, Colorado, at that mass shooting at that supermarket. It was yesterday, I think it was. So my condolences to those families there.
And while we are talking about mass shootings and horrible things, in Atlanta, I don't think we got a chance to speak about it but in Atlanta
we didn't. But go ahead.
Rest in peace. If Stop Asian Hate is the hashtag, then Stop Asian Hate. I'm rocking. Apparently, some dude just started riding around massage parlors and shooting people. I don't have the entire story, but just get that.
It's crazy.
Rest in
Cold
peace.
world.
Rest in peace to the people who lost their lives. Condolences to the family and friends affected.
Crazy. It's a crazy world out there, right?
Yeah, I leave it there. I don't want to make that a long conversation. But rest in peace to the people who lost their lives and to the families and friends. Condolences.
So I had a chance to watch a little bit of this NCAA tournament, and I'm kind of learning a few things, and I don't pretend to know, I watched some regular season games, and then there was some that was just like, okay. I kind of ignored it for a long stretch, especially while football was on and the NBA started to get popping and all that. But I did learn a few things prior to the start of the tournament and during these first two rounds. So I guess I'll start from the top. So everybody knows that Kentucky and Duke had COVID cases, and so both those programs elected to end their seasons.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit confusing, particularly on the Duke side, because I know they ended their season right before the ACC tournament. And I thought it was just, they're just not going to play in the ACC tournament, but they'll be around for the big tournament.
Right.
And it turns out when they meant they were ending their season, they were ending their season. So you have that. And, for me, and not that Duke was, I didn't hear Duke's name a lot throughout the regular season.
I didn't hear any name of that.
Yeah, so I imagine that they weren't like this powerhouse that they normally are in the past. And, the same thing with Kentucky. Like, I haven't heard Kentucky's name throughout the regular season. So I kind of knew going in that this tournament was really going to be up for grabs. But with that being said, though, Gonzaga, and they've kind of been around like for a while now, right? Like
high seeds pretty much every year.
High seeds. They make runs to the Final Four. I think they was in a final game maybe a few years ago.
I thought they even won one, and I feel like they hadn't won one. I thought they had won one.
No, they didn't win a chip yet.
Okay.
Gonzaga? No. Like, that's the knock. Like, you hear, sports pundits talk, like, that's the knock on Gonzaga is that, they have these great regular seasons and they get these high seeds, and then, you get to the big dance and they just come up short. So with all that being said about Duke and Kentucky not being there, and I guess you could go throw Kansas in there too.
Yeah.
Kansas was in the tournament, but they did get knocked out by one of those Cinderella teams, I think. This is Gonzaga's tournament to lose. I mean, when you look at what's left out there, and I'm not dismissing what Alabama has done. I'm not dismissing what Michigan with Coach Juwan Howard. I'm definitely not dismissing what they've done. And certainly somebody like Syracuse, who it seems like when they got pressure on them to win, they choke. And then when nobody's talking about them, they make these long runs. So I'm certainly not counting out somebody like a Syracuse. But this is Gonzaga's tournament to lose. Like, if you can't win it this year without any of the usual suspects that are there, that are normally there, that's not there right now,
Yep.
then I don't know when Gonzaga's going to finally get that elusive chip.
Are they really known for? I mean, I guess you got to say they're known as a basketball school, but are they a basketball school per se, or do they just happen to be a good team? I guess you got to call them a basketball school, but aren't they known for more aren't they known for more like education than athletics?
Definitely, when they kind of first got into the game and all that, they definitely was just known for athletics. But they've been so good.
I mean, obviously they've been so good.
These last few years.
It's been a while.
At this point, you have to consider them. Yeah, you have to consider them basketball team, a basketball program now. They don't get a lot of attention because I think that school is in the state of Washington. So, you know, the West Coast, the left coast, I mean, we normally don't see them play a lot because they play late at night during the regular season. But I would call them a basketball school at this point.
Okay. Well, then, yeah, if emphatically they're a basketball school, then, yeah, I'm with you. I just don't. And I guess you got to kind of look at them as a basketball school because they've been so successful for so long. Like they've been high seeded for a while. But for me, I never looked at them as like a basketball school. Like I don't look at them like a Duke or a Kansas. I don't look at them like a North Carolina. I mean, I don't even look at them like I don't even look at them like a Michigan State. I don't look at them like when you think about basketball programs, I don't think about Gonzaga. So so that's probably why I don't think it's such a big deal. I think for real, they could just keep doing what they're doing and they'll be fine because people don't come to Gonzaga to play basketball. Specifically, not no high name high like kids, big name high school. You know, the top of the crop. Prospects.
Yeah,
they ain't thinking about coming to Gonzaga. That because in my mind, because they're not a basketball school like that. They just happen to be a program that they succeed.
Yeah. It has a lot to do with the coach, and I think for most of, if not all, these programs,
and not to cut you off, a whole bunch of white people come and play ball in Gonzaga, but
yeah,
I just don't really know.
No, I think you make a good point. A whole bunch of white boys. I think you make. Yeah, you make a good point. You make a good point there. I'll say this though. I think, and you could say this about almost most of the programs in college basketball, but it starts with the coach because the players come and go, but the coaches, in some cases, Coach K, they remain the same. So with Gonzaga, Mark Few has been there for quite some time now, and no matter who comes in or comes out of that program, they always maintain this sustainability, this consistency of winning basketball. So they're probably not at the top of recruits list. Like, not recruits. I mean, they're not at the top of players who want to go play basketball. They're not at the top of that list, but they're going to be relevant in a sense that as long as that coach is there and as long as that system's there, they're going to be in the mix. They've proven that over the last few years.
Yeah, it just makes me wonder why. But it makes me wonder why nobody want to go play there. Like, what is it about the coach? Then?
It's Washington State. If I'm just kind of being biased for a second here, if we're talking about like players from this area, from the Baltimore DC region, don't nobody want to travel 3,000 miles out west just to go to a college. When you got Maryland, you got Georgetown, and then if you just go up and down this coast, like you got in New York City, you got St. John's, you got Hofstra, you got what's the school, Rutgers. You got all these schools up and down this corridor, this East Coast.
Well, Hofstra and Rutgers would be terrible schools to go to for basketball, by the way.
I would agree, particularly with Hofstra, and I don't know why I even threw Hofstra's name out there, but But yeah, particularly Hofstra, they're definitely not a basketball
But
school.
Rutgers has been better since the last time I've been keeping up with them, though.
They're better. They've been better, even though they did choke one the other night to Houston. They had a 5-point lead with like 2 minutes left, and they just choked that thing away. They ended up losing by like 2 or 3. So
yeah, I knew a kid when I worked
on that staff. They had a death on that staff. I think that same day, I heard somebody on the radio talking about it. I don't know if it was like maybe the color analyst or maybe just someone affiliated with that school that the team was so close to. They died.
You talking about Rutgers?
At Rutgers, yeah.
Okay.
Someone died the same day they lost that game to Houston.
Wow.
So that was tough on the team. Yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah.
I
had a kid. I was saying that there was a kid named Jerome Seegers, who I was watching when Rutgers was bad, because I remember Jerome Seegers when he was he was playing. When I worked at the middle school, he went to the middle school. Mm-hmm. So so when I seen him, I was like, oh, okay, but he didn't really he didn't really do well. Ended up beefing with the coach, to my understanding. Mm-hmm. And wherever he is, I hope he's doing well. But but that's why I was Rutgers. I remember Rutgers being bad the last time I was following Rutgers. Like, they were bad.
Oh yeah, they've been bad for a while.
Yeah,
basketball wise.
Yeah,
they've been bad. And I tell you what, the football program, not to switch sports on you, but they've been bad for a while too, especially since they went from I guess they was in the Big East or something to the Big Ten when it comes to football. So they've been atrocious, but gotten better as of late. And I did want to get to the Alabama-Maryland game last night, where again, I'm just learning things about these teams in this tournament.
Alabama was like a 2 seed, right? Or they are like a 2 seed.
Alabama's a 2 seed. And it's funny because I was just over my uncle's crib on Sunday, and I was like, yo, I think if Maryland could somehow get by Alabama, like, they got a clear path to at least get to the Elite Eight, because on that other side of the bracket, you got like I don't remember if it's like a 12-8 matchup or one of those like lower seeded teams. I think both seeds were like low seeds and stuff. And it's like, yo, like, they could get this done. They could go right to the Elite Eight, and then whatever happens.
Right.
But man, I learned a lot about Alabama last night, bro. So apparently they are like number 1 in 3-point attempts made in like the whole like college basketball. Mm-hmm. So these dudes are jacking up shots, and these shots is hitting. Right. And I'm like, whoa, Maryland ain't got no shot, because I one thing I do know about Maryland is they don't shoot the 3 ball very well if they're going to want to keep up. But it's crazy because they were in the lead. Like, Maryland came out smoking hot. What's his name? Ayala. I think his name is Ayala. He had a dunk early on in the first half of the game. They was up by like, I don't know, it was like 11-5 or something like that. And they were staying in it. They had like maybe a 5-point lead when it was like 22-17. And then I went to go watch my daughter and then come back, and Alabama's up by like 5-6 points. I was like, yo, what happened? And then next thing you know, they just start knocking down them.
So I'm assuming this happened in the ACC. I mean, Maryland what's their conference now? It's Big East, right?
Big Ten.
Big Ten. I'm sorry, I meant Big Ten.
No, Big Ten.
Big Ten, right? Why was Juwan Howard recently? Juwan Howard about to get into it with Mark Turgeon.
You know what? That's a very good question. I don't know.
Okay, all right.
I did hear about it. But
that was tournament play. That was tournament play.
That was Big Ten.
Big Ten tournament play. Right.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. So
okay.
Because
I know like Maryland. If I'm not mistaken, Maryland's on one side of the tournament bracket, and then Michigan is on or was
Yeah, because it's like Big Ten East or Big Ten West or something like that.
Yeah. So I know that
it's split between two. I guess there's like conferences within the conference. I guess you could, say that way. But yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Tell me about Oral Roberts.
I want to see that.
Tell me about the Cinderella team, Oral Roberts, man. They beat Ohio State. They beat
good win. Good win.
Yeah, then they beat Florida, number 7 Florida.
Yep.
I
can't tell you much.
You can't tell me nothing much about them.
I can't tell you nothing except that they're Cinderella. That's really all I got, man.
They seem to be the Cinderella team this year. Yeah,
well, it's crazy because another thing I learned about what's happening in the next round, the most double-seeded teams to reach this far in a while. So you got number 12 Oregon State. You got number 15 Oral Roberts, number 11 Syracuse, and then you got the number 11 UCLA. And then really you look at other teams like you got Loyola Chicago, who was a Cinderella a couple of years ago. Yeah. And made the Final Four. Yeah. So they're in there. They matter of fact, they go up against number 12 Oregon State. So Loyola's got a chance here to at least get to the Elite Eight and then, kind of see what happens from there. I think a familiar face who's left in this tournament, Jay Wright's still in this tournament with Villanova. Mm-hmm. That's a team to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I'm about to say, you talking about Gonzaga. I mean, just off experience, I mean,
yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Syracuse too. If you're going to talk experience, Syracuse has got it. Villanova's got it.
I would say Villanova more. I mean, more so, I would say Villanova just because of the recent, recent wins. Yeah.
I agree. So it looks like it's just to kind of cap off the conversation. So it's Gonzaga versus Creighton. It's Michigan versus Florida State. Alabama versus UCLA, and then it's USC versus Oregon. Those are the Sunday games, and then you got Loyola Chicago versus Oregon State, Villanova versus Baylor, who's had a real great season. Mm-hmm. That's the number 1 seed Baylor team right there. Oral Roberts going up against the 3 seed Arkansas. I forgot what you call them, but they're Arkansas, and then Houston, the number 2 seed, going up against Syracuse, the 11 seed. So, so there you have that. I'll stand by this. Gonzaga, you got to get it done this year.
Yep.
You got to get it done.
I might even low key pull for them. Well, but like I said, maybe they don't really care to be talked about. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously,
I'm saying, but if they really want to recruit players, like you talked about, not enough big name players coming out of high school choose that university. If they can win the chip, maybe that changes that narrative. I don't know.
Yeah, and obviously they would be bringing more money if they win a chip. They would be bringing more money to the school and all those types of things. Obviously
that stock would rise.
Yeah, but I mean, it seems. I mean, they're just that step away, and that's a big step. But they're just that step away. They've been a good basketball program by hook or crook for some years. So I mean, I just wonder if have they ever really been serious about it. Can we shift to some basket? I guess we should do basketball news, the important stuff.
Yeah, we could do that.
But I saw something that I saw something before we signed on that was interesting, and that we need to we sit here and we talk all this sports shit and we be calling players trash and all that. Mm-hmm. And I saw a story that I think we need to recognize and remember, the sorriest basketball player in the league would probably bust our ass, on a pickup game.
Probably.
Yeah, so
Probably,
like,
yeah.
so with why I'm still going to continue to call players sorry when they are sorry at their level, at the professional level of basketball. I watched a stern reminder of why I could never play a pickup game against these athletes, meaning Brian Scalabrine.
No.
Like that. Like we think about Brian Scalabrine, and I ain't gonna keep teasing. I'm just gonna say it. So
yeah.
I just saw on TikTok before we came on, some high school kid talking shit to Brian Scalabrine, whatever. I bust your ass, talking shit to him.
Yep.
And I guess they was like bet, they bet a pair of shoes or something. I guess a pair of shoes he had on or whatever. And when I tell you that Brian Scalabrine cleaned this young boy the fuck up, they went to 11 and the young boy didn't score a point. Like, yeah. And I'm not talking about like just some young boy. This kid clearly plays basketball. Like he ain't he clearly plays basketball like on a team. Like he play ball. Yeah. Brian Scalabrine cleaned this young boy up, like cleaned him up good, and like big man them jumper, and Brian Scalabrine was kind of known for that, like he had a little jumper, but he was
could shoot the three,
but he was a stocky dude, like you know what I'm saying. So, but he cleaned that young kid up, and I think it was a good reminder for me that. Like I said, I'm gonna keep calling you sorry, but the second an athlete called me out, like I bust your ass, like yeah, you right, you bust my ass, but right now, what you doing on the court or the field or whatever, you trash, my nigga, and I'm gonna keep calling you trash at that level. You're trash at that level. It's just no way to slice it, but these Bammers is professional athletes for real. Like don't ever lose sight of that term, professional athlete.
Brian, there's a reason why Brian Scalabrine rode the bench all those years. So I kind of remember Brian Scalabrine when he was on the Nets, like kind of going back to those like early 2000s Nets.
I think I remember him in Boston. I think I remember him in Indiana, I want to say too.
In Chicago.
Chicago, okay.
He was on Chicago, yep. And those stops, he was mostly like the 12th or 13th guy coming off the bench.
But he'll bust your ass. Like, clearly, he'll bust your ass.
Yeah. I could see that. I gotta find that video.
Yeah. I sent it to you. I know it's on Bleacher Report. I'm pretty sure it's on Bleacher Report. But yeah, he busted that young boy's ass. Pascal Siakam. Have you been abreast to the Pascal Siakam situation?
I have not. This is interesting.
Okay. Well, in short, he was fined $50,000 for some quote heated choice words to Nick Nurse following the Cleveland Cavalier loss Sunday, which they are officially on a 10-game losing streak after losing to the Rockets, who finally snapped their 20-game win streak. A losing streak, I'm sorry. John Wall fucked around, got a triple-double. I just want to throw that out there. But I say that to say, like I've been saying to you for years, and I feel like I just kind of want my flowers for being right, that Pascal Siakam was not the guy who could carry a team. He was fine for these choice words, and now they're starting to like the narrative is starting to be kind of pushed around in media circles that he ain't that dude that everybody thought he was going to be when Kawhi left. He averaging 20 and 7. But and that's I mean, unfortunately, and not to keep throwing shade, but that's like second man numbers.
So my first thoughts after you just said what you said right there, I'm gonna go back to the off season, right after they won the chip, right? And Kawhi Leonard is like, yo, I want to go back to LA, or can I stay here? And if you remember those conversations that Masai Ujiri was having with Kawhi and his people, it was, if you can bring me Paul George to Toronto, I will stay. If you remember that. And Masai Ujiri was like, nah, I'm not gonna trade Pascal Siakam, because that was a part of the deal.
Yeah.
Like, if that was going to be the trade for Kawhi to stay in Toronto. So now that we kind of fast forward in, a couple of years later now, and the Raptors are, where they are in the standings, I think they're 12th right now.
Yeah.
Out of the playoff picture. Man, did the Raptors make a mistake? Like, I think that's like a legitimate question.
I mean, yes, it's a legitimate question, but I think we have the answer. I mean, because here we are. I've already seen trade room. We've been seeing trade rooms for Kyle Lowry all year. Now, who did I just see? Norman Powell is now in the trade conversations before the deadline.
Right. Right.
I mean, and this Bama's averaging 20 and 7. That's
crazy. So who they lose in the offseason? And they lost Serge Ibaka, and they lost
they didn't lose
Marc
that much.
Gasol, right?
Yeah, they didn't lose that much.
So
I mean, some people would say that Marc Gasol by good riddance, and Serge Ibaka was a piece for certain, but he wasn't game changing piece to where now Pascal Siakam don't look like who people thought he was going to be. I mean, like I said when I watched him in that playoff run, he just ain't that dude. He just ain't that dude.
I just find it hard to believe that Serge Ibaka is the difference in the Raptors being what they were last year and what they are now. Like, I find that hard to believe. And let's not forget, Fred VanVleet has stepped his game up since those finals. He's stepped his game up.
They paid him. Paid him. I mean, when you say step his game up,
they paid him.
I mean,
his stats. I'm talking about his numbers and his stats.
I don't know his numbers.
He has stepped his game up. Like, there's nights where he's dropping 30 points, a game for about maybe a 3-game, 4-game stretch, and then he might cool off to like 20 points a game. Like, that dude, he is a better basketball player now than he was in those finals a couple of years ago. So if you're telling me that you're gonna lose Serge Ibaka and you're gonna lose Marc Gasol, who really Marc Gasol was coming off the bench and really kind of, not really so much providing a spark, but I mean, he would shoot the occasional 3-point shot. He would, get you some boards, things like that. But if you're telling me you lose that, but then you gain the production of Fred VanVleet, along with Pascal Siakam and Kyle Lowry, Norman Powell, and, some of the bench players that you got, I would expect they're still in the mix for the playoffs. Maybe not a number one, not even a top 4 seed. If we did our predictions, and I remembered that I thought they'd get like the 5th or the 6th seed. I thought that's where they would, fall at, considering what the other teams were doing. This is a shock to me that they've fallen off this hard.
I don't recall having them in the playoffs now, and I'll preface
you
that.
didn't.
Okay.
You didn't. And I got to give you your flowers for now. They don't look like they was last year. They look so far away from it. And I was thinking maybe it's a slow start, right? Because you had the Heat start off slow. You had Boston, who I don't even think Boston's really found themselves yet, because they're kind of hovering around 500. But because it's the Eastern Conference, they're still hanging in there. Yeah. And then you got the Hawks, who, if I'm not mistaken, they've won 9 games in a row. Since Nate McMillan, our guy, took over for Lloyd Pierce.
My guy. He's not your guy. He's my guy.
He's not my guy?
No, he's my guy. Because I remember specifically, you feeling a way about Lloyd Pierce being fired and me saying, nah.
Well, that was before I even knew that Nate McMillan was even on the coaching staff. I didn't even know he was there.
I mean, you still was kind of caping for Pierce, and I was like, nah, he should.
Well, here's why I was caping for Pierce. It's the Eastern Conference. Teams were starting off slow, and it's clear the teams that you expected to be at the top, they were starting off slow. So we thought, okay, give this team more time. It's a pandemic. It's an unusual season. No, not a lot of workouts and stuff like that. And quite frankly, I didn't feel like anybody, whether they were good or bad, should have been getting fired because of the circumstances. But that's a different topic.
But did you change your mind when you found out Nate McMillan was on the staff? Because I said specifically, I don't even know how Lloyd Pierce had the job, and Nate McMillan got hired as as
an assistant coach.
I mean, coach. And the way I see it, if I was the Atlanta Falcons and Nate McMillan got fired, and I'm considering putting him on my staff,
not the Falcons.
I'm sorry, the Hawks. And and I'm talking about putting Nate McMillan on my staff. And I guess I'm speaking there unreasonably now that I'm saying it out loud in my head. Man, I'm trying to get Lloyd Pierce up out of there. I'm trying to make Nate McMillan my head coach. I mean, ideally, this might have been the plan all the way.
Right. It could have been. It very well could have been. But I just thought that you got a young team. You got Trey Young. You're trying to build something here. And for me, it's like, give the coach some time to, build this thing up. And let's see if they can get to the playoffs even after the slow start.
Yeah.
And if they didn't, and if they missed it toward the end, then if you let them go, then I understand. Right. But I'm not rooting against Nate McMillan. I mean, I think we said when he got fired from the Pacers that it was uncalled for. And I thought that Nate McMillan at that point deserved another opportunity to coach someplace else.
Here we go.
He's in someplace else. He's in Atlanta. He's coaching the Hawks. They're on this 8-9 game winning streak. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. And I think they're like the number 4 seed right now in the East.
Yeah. Against who's the 5 seed?
Against what?
Who's the 5 seed?
Probably the Celtics. I don't have the standings up right now.
Okay.
But,
all right.
But I know the Heat. I know the Heat's right in there. I know the top 3. I know it's Philly, Brooklyn, and Milwaukee, the top 3, and then Atlanta's 4. And so you're probably looking at like Boston, the Heat, the Knicks, and probably Charlotte in to round out the top 8.
Right.
And speaking of Charlotte, man, we just got to give a shout out to LaMelo Ball, man, with the wrist and stuff, and he's out for the season. And I still think he should win Rookie of the Year for what he's done, but I think what Anthony Edwards is doing in Minnesota.
About to say, I hold out for that. Yes, he up until his injury, he's been the best rookie in the league. But I hold out to see if somebody else come around and do something crazier for the rest of the season.
Anthony Edwards is balling right now.
Yeah,
so I'll give him a chance to win that award. So
who's the last?
Shout out to LaMelo.
Who's the last player you thought of that you felt confident could guard all 5 positions?
I mean, this might be a cop out, but I would say LeBron.
LeBron
to guard all 5 positions.
And be good at it.
And be good at it. Yeah.
I can't think of a time where I mean, I guess he has guarded the 5 before, but I think about Dennis Rodman, and honestly, I think about Draymond Green, who we're about to talk about, who says that he is the greatest defender of all time.
That he himself
is the greatest defender of all time. His quote goes, I think when you look at the things that make a good defender, reaction time, toughness, being able to see the picture long before it develops, and most importantly, in order to finish a defensive possession, you got to the rebound. I think I'm the great in every facet that makes up that side of the ball. That's his quote. he makes a great point. He's still not the greatest defender of all time, but he makes a great point. And but I will say, who recently has been a better defender than Draymond Green?
Recently, let's see.
Because here's the thing: you talk about people like Rudy Gobert and Giannis. I don't know how often Rudy Gobert has to guard a guard.
I don't think I've ever seen Rudy Gobert guard the backcourt.
Yeah, I don't think it happens. Giannis, while I do believe he's a good defender and he probably can defend all 5 positions, I think it's more of a highlight thing for him and him being, Giannis,
right.
as to why he gets a Defensive Player of the Year 2 years in a row. I don't know that it's a straight out fact that he is the best defender in the game. I don't believe that.
Yeah. So when you think about like good defenders, and just some names just kind of came to my head. So I think about somebody like Tony Allen, who I think responded to Draymond Green's tweet about him being the best defender ever. I think about him. I think about Paul George. I think about a guy like Shane Battier, and I think everybody remembers Shane Battier when he was with the Grizzlies.
Can I take? Hold on. Can I detour? And I promise we'll get back to is Draymond Green the best, even though we know the answer is no.
Yeah.
You mentioned Paul George, and I just got finished listening to Joe Budden podcast last week, and he brought up the conversation of, is Paul George food? Meaning, do the all-star, to the guys who to the cats that ball, who score, when they see Paul George across from them, like, oh, he about to guard them.
It's hunting season, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you think about Damian Lillard, Lillard, and but he was just, it was, and I'm sorry, not just Damian Lillard, Luka Doncic as well. I was
gonna say, you think about them, and I think you think about not anybody particularly on the Nuggets, but you think about the Nuggets.
Like they would, like Paul George hasn't, let me say, in the past few years, hasn't been looking quite like a defensive, like one of those guys you think about when you think about one of the best defenders in the game. I just thought about that while you were saying Paul George. I'm sorry, and I know I probably took you off.
But more so when he was, with Indiana. He was one of the better defenders in the game. But kind of, and I mentioned Shane Battier. I remember when he was with the Grizzlies, he was a good, to great defender. I remember a playoff series when he was with the Rockets going up against Kobe, and I mean Kobe got the better of him, obviously, but there were moments where Shane Battier, was holding his own. So, but if you're talking about a guy that could defend all 5 positions, that's just tough. And another name that just came into mind, Patrick Beverley. Now, we know he defends the guards really well. I mean, he doesn't defend the backcourt all that great, but those are just some of the names. The front court, I mean.
Yeah.
But
so yeah, I like I said, I think we agree that Draymond Green ain't. Who would you like? Just all 5 positions. Just all 5. The conversation is all 5 positions. Like I said, I watched, and I get that this is more of a game where, in Draymond's era, is more of a game where centers aren't like low post dominant or as low post dominant. But you gotta give him his props. He is like 6'8", 6'9", and he be guarding all positions. Bam must be 7 feet. Bam must be whatever, and he has held his own more than he hasn't. When I think about a defensive player of that caliber, I don't see the reason why I eliminate people like LeBron, Giannis, is because I can't, in my mind, imagine you being that great that great defensive player that could do all five and then still score to the level that a Giannis, the level that LeBron does.
Right.
I mean, when you think about that caliber of defensive, I mean, Dennis Rodman is for me is the name. Just his size, and I know I've personally watched Dennis Rodman shut down dominant offensive players at all five positions. So,
right.
Yeah,
I mean, Rodman might be that guy.
I'm at least have to put
and you're talking about an era. You're talking about that era of basketball where the center was, for some teams at that time, the focal point of the offense.
Right.
So I think you make a great point there about Rodman.
Is he the greatest defensive player ever, though? Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Rodman? He's in the conversation.
He's in the conversation.
He's not like, I think if he's not number one, he's like 1B or 2.
Yeah.
I think he's right there.
Yeah.
I was gonna mention Oakley's name, and I don't think he gets enough credit, but I do think Oakley was just known more for just giving niggas clotheslines in the lane whenever you tried to come into the hole. Like I think it was just more known for that. But I always thought that Oakley was an underrated rebounder. I thought he was pretty good at doing that, but he's mostly known for being a bully in the paint. So,
Magic Johnson on First Take today said that Lonzo Ball has the highest basketball IQ in the league right now, and Stephen A wanted to argue Magic Johnson, and Max Kellerman was like, "How you gonna argue Magic Johnson about basketball IQ?" So I'll ask you this, since Magic Johnson isn't here to, his point, make his point. Where do you see Lonzo? And let's be clear, Lonzo Ball is a great passer. He's a freaking good point guard. He's a good freaking point guard. The purest form of the term point guard. I don't know many point guards that's a pure point guard like him. Chris Paul is the obvious of the choice.
Just gonna say, like last time I checked, Chris Paul was still in the league,
right? And Chris Paul is making the Suns a top team in the West without doing a whole bunch of scoring. He did the same thing with Oklahoma City the year before.
That team is a problem. That Phoenix Suns team, that team is a problem.
So so my next question, because nobody believes that Lonzo Ball has the highest basketball IQ in the league, was why do you think Magic Johnson is saying that?
Because he drafted Lonzo Ball, right? If I remember correctly, when the Lakers drafted him, wasn't he at the helm of the Lakers?
Yeah, but Magic Johnson is no longer at the helm, and Lonzo Ball is no longer a Laker.
Those are facts. I just think that he's just sticking up for his guy. I think that.
But is he his guy?
When you're, huh?
But
he drafted
him?
I
mean, yeah, but
he drafted him, and you're right. He's not with the Lakers no more, and Lonzo is somewhere else. Matter of fact, he's 2 stops from where he was drafted at. But the reality is that these former players, these Hall of Fame players who turn executives, these guys have egos, and so you pick or who's going to be your top pick, and that's the guy that you chose. That you got to stand by that guy. If you're Magic Johnson and that's the guy that you chose to run your team, he is just sticking by the fact that he made the pick. He's talking about his pick. He's trying to build his player that he chose number 1 up, regardless of what team he's playing on now.
So there is no obviously, like I said, obviously he doesn't work for the Lakers anymore. He's not on their payroll per se.
Right.
But
there's an
you
affiliation still.
and you would have to, and you would have to still think, you would have
Mm-hmm.
to think that he still talks to Jeannie Buss about basketball things and what should I do and what I shouldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
There, so you don't see them at all possibly trying to lure Lonzo Ball back to the Lakers.
That's a possibility. I think that's a possibility, and I guess we can kind of get into what's going on with the Lakers right now. Anthony Davis is still out, and LeBron just had an eye ankle sprain Saturday night, and they said he was out indefinitely, but I don't. Not that I don't think he's hurt, but this to me just sounds like LeBron is taking his normal PTO time.
Yeah, because it clearly and you know, I'm sorry, I watched him play another possession, hit a three, and then walk off the court, Yep. So I'm sure he's hurt. I'm sure it hurts. But yeah, I tend to agree that he's taking personal time off. And look, he's LeBron James.
Mm-hmm.
Do what you want to do.
I'm not mad at it.
Do what you want to do.
I'm not mad at it. I just wish that the report wasn't that he's out indefinitely. Like you could at least put a timeline on it.
Well, maybe there's no timeline on it because he wanna sit out for as long as he want to sit out. You know what I'm saying? So if he, you know,
I remember when he got hurt. I remember when he not to cut you off, but I remember when he got hurt a couple years ago, and what did he miss? Like 17, 18 games or something like that. Mm-hmm. I don't ever recall the report saying that he was out indefinitely. Like they kind of gave a timeline, and then by the time it reached that point, I think that timeline got extended, and before you know it, we were talking about he back there with Rich Paul. They trying to conduct business. They trying to make sure they get this Anthony Davis trade popping.
Yeah.
So in this case, this year, you could give a timeline, and then if you got extended, then extend it.
Yeah. He just deciding how long he want to sit out for. Like it might be 2 days, might be a week, might be 2 weeks, might be a this might be right before the playoffs.
This could be his way of saying, look, I might be out. But if we drop to the 4th seed in the West, we still gonna go to the finals. Like I feel like cerebrally, like he's trying to do something to where people are saying, "Oh, look what LeBron's doing in the Wild Wild West as a number 4 seed, and he's taking the team to the finals." Like
he just might not want to play without AD. Might be tired of playing without AD. It's a little easier for LeBron. When he got that,
Yeah. But then now we talking championships now. Like, I think that gets compromised.
Well,
at some point.
Do you think if he sit out for 2 weeks, they come out of the playoff race, or 3 weeks?
That they come.
What do you mean? Is there a situation where the Lakers don't make the playoffs depending on how long LeBron sits out?
Oh, no. They're making the playoffs. But if they're out, if both of those guys are out, like let's say until the end of April, they could drop to like a 5th seed, a 6th seed, or something like that. Like that's possible. But that's what I'm saying. I think he could be building this up so that people are kind of wowed at his return, and the Lakers are a 5th seed, and they're trying to do something that no team has done in the West for a long time.
For itself.
Because remember the final year in Cleveland, the second go round in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. The final year they were a 4 seed, and like everybody was talking about how bad the team was around him, and LeBron has got to carry the load, and do all this stuff. And I know it's the Eastern Conference, but look what happened.
For what it's worth, he did carry the load.
He carried that, like he skull dragged that team to the finals.
Yeah,
that final year in Cleveland.
So are you implying that he wants that that.
I think he might want that. Like he might seriously be like, you know what?
Respect
for
me.
all y'all that talk about, for all y'all that talk about how the West is so tough and all this stuff, watch me come back. My team drops 4 spots in the standings, and we gonna make this run, and y'all gonna really see how great I am as a player to do this in this conference.
Interesting. You got anything else in basketball?
Because that's legendary. I mean, he's a legend already.
He's already a legend.
Like,
that would just add to the resume. If he came back, they a 4 seed, 5 seed, and they go through. What's that? That don't do nothing for me.
To go.
You there?
Add to his resume of greatness.
You went out for a second.
Oh no, I was saying I think to go through the gauntlet of the West, whether it's you got to face Luka, whether you got to go against the Clippers, or what Utah's done this year, or what the Phoenix Suns have done this year, you like that's a gauntlet. Like,
yeah, but when you're talking about that, you only really talking about that for the first round, though. I mean, because if they're the 1 seed and then they play the 8 seed.
No, but I'm talking about if they drop to the 4 or 5 seed is what I'm talking about.
Right,
I'm not talking about if they're 1 seed.
Right, no. What I'm saying though is that it's not like the Lakers aren't the Lakers at the 4 seed still. Like they're still like, even if record shows that they are no longer the 1 seed in the playoffs because LeBron and AD sat out, when they come back, they are still going to be that 1 seed team. Like, they're still like, I don't know.
They're going to be the Lakers. They're going to be the Lakers.
So I don't know if that is, because the thing is that it's not like they're underperforming. If they start losing games and they get down to the 4 or 5 seed, the narrative is going to be they're falling down because they're the 2 best players. And, the best player in the league. And then, so the narrative is going to be, so I don't think the narrative is going to be, the Lakers in trouble? Well, let me say this. If that becomes the narrative, that's a fucking cheesy narrative to act like the Lakers aren't going to still be the Lakers when AD and LeBron comes back, because both of them are out and they lost some games without their 2 best players.
Right, yeah, and I'm not trying to imply that should be a narrative, and I agree with you, it should not be a narrative. What I'm saying is that things change when you don't have that home court advantage. So if you're a 4 or 5 seed, if you're the 4 seed, obviously you get the home court, but after that, if everything falls right with the 1 through 3 seeds, then you on the road for the next 2 series just to get to the finals. I think that's more of a challenge for the Lakers than it would be if they were a number 1 or a number 2 seed. Sure,
but I don't think that's going to be like a legendary run. Like, even if LeBron and AD had to face let's say the Suns and the Jazz in the first 2 rounds without home court advantage. We still expect the Lakers to beat both of those teams,
and then the Clippers in the conference final. Let's say,
yeah, I still
that's a gauntlet. I would say that's a gauntlet compared to last year, compared to what they went through last year.
I agree that's a gauntlet. I agree that it is a gauntlet. That I agree with. I don't think that LeBron James is going to earn stripes for getting them to the finals with that run, because at the end of the day, they were still the better teams. Like, as much as I like the Suns, and I would love the Suns to beat the Lakers in a playoff series,
I don't love anybody to beat the Lakers in a series.
We don't. Well, and that's only because the Lakers are on top. But it's only because it's the Lakers, exactly. Because in the grand scheme of things, the matchup should be the LA Lakers versus the Brooklyn Nets. Anybody else is kind of like,
you
know what I'm saying? So for all intents and purposes, we expect the Lakers to do what they do, irregardless of where they are in the standings when it comes playoffs time. We don't for a second think that if LeBron and AD sit out and they get down to the 5 seed and then they come back right at the beginning of the playoffs, that the Lakers are going to all of a sudden be at a disadvantage against the Suns or the Jazz or whoever you throw up against them, except for maybe the Clippers. And really, at this stage of the game, I can't even really say I believe the Clippers.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just depends. I mean, yeah, who are the physical teams out west? Like teams that plays like the Jazz. The Jazz play good defense, right? So you play them, you get out of a tough series against us, and then you got to go up against, let's say, Phoenix. You go up against Phoenix, and that might be a 6-7 game series right there, and then you got to go up against Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and the Clippers, and I get they're probably not what they were last year, because I don't think they're a better team this year than they were last year, because I think losing Montrezl Harrell was a big deal for them. And I know getting Serge Ibaka was sort of a replacement for that. I don't think they're as good as they were last year, but if you got to go against those three teams just to get to the finals, I think that would be a challenge for the Lakers. But if they pulled it off, I just think it just adds to the resume. I don't think it changes like his legacy or anything like that. I'm not trying to imply that his place, his legendary place in the game,
of course,
changes.
I'm saying it doesn't add. I'm saying that wouldn't add. I'm not at all saying that it would subtract. I'm just saying that it wouldn't add.
Okay.
I don't think it would add.
Okay. Yeah, we clearly see it different. We clearly see it different. I just think when you're out west and you're trying to get to a finals as a 4 or 5 seed, the last team to do that was the Rockets in 95. They were 6 seed and they just ran through everybody to get to the finals that year.
But even that Rockets team didn't have the star power of AD and LeBron.
Yeah, but they traded for Clyde Drexler mid-season that year too.
Old Clyde Drexler.
Just to pair it with Hakeem and
old Clyde Drexler.
What?
Old Clyde Drexler.
Old Drexler.
Old Hakeem.
Old Drexler, but he still had something left.
Sure, but again, my point is that the star power of the Rockets that year aren't the star power of we're talking about out of like 2 of the 10 best players in the game right now. Like that Rockets team don't compare to this Lakers team.
And yet, who did the Rockets that year have to go through? They had to go through Barkley's Suns, if I'm not mistaken, and then they had to go through David Robinson and the Spurs, and then they had to go through Stockton and Malone. Those were 3 tough teams that year just to get to the finals.
Yeah,
I find that impressive.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I don't think, but do you feel like that run? Well, sure, of course. How much stock do you think that added to Hakeem Olajuwon's run? I mean, his career. That one particular playoff run. I think. Because then they won the chip. You talking about the one they won the chip? So of course it added. So
when they beat the Magic in the finals,
right? But we don't talk about. But we don't talk about. My point is that we don't talk about what it took to get there. We just talk about the fact that they won the chip. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So I just don't know that.
Sure. I
think difficulty of schedule only really holds a whole bunch of stock when it's like your first or second championship. I don't think at LeBron, when you're young in the game, I don't think that difficulty of schedule holds a lot of weight when you're as seasoned as LeBron, Anthony Davis, even for that matter, and when you're you got rings specifically with LeBron, you got rings. I don't think that difficulty of schedule is just are you going to get me a ring or are you not?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think with that Rockets team, that was on their way to their second title after defending their championship. So you can also argue that they had the experience of getting to the finals.
Yeah, but you're not talking
to overcome that.
Yeah, but when I'm talking about experience, I'm talking about, like I said, LeBron is LeBron. It's cemented. Only thing we really care about when you're talking about LeBron is he winning the championship, and that is all people really care about when you're talking about LeBron.
Sure.
Maybe to the deep sports heads that get into it like that might hold a little weight. I think in the overall picture though, that's not holding a whole bunch of weight. That's not holding, but you mentioned the strength of schedule is not holding a bunch of weight.
Oh, the schedule. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
The strength of schedule is all I'm talking about.
So you mentioned when we were talking about all that, you mentioned Brooklyn, and I wanted to bring this kind of to your attention because I was just on YouTube the other day, just kind of scrolling through videos and stuff, and I stumbled upon a video of Max Kellerman talking about his interview with Kendrick Perkins earlier in the week, and he said that Kendrick Perkins was basically saying that that Kevin Durant obviously is he's best in the game right now, despite the fact that he's out of he's out for a while, and he also said this too. He also said that the Sixers were the best team in the Eastern Conference. Now, I'm trying to figure out what context he was referring that to, because was he saying they were the best in the East while Durant was on the bench, or was he saying that that they were the best in the East, period, regardless of who's on the other teams and all that? But Max made it seem as if the context was that they were the best regardless of who else is playing on these other teams. But it got to Max thinking about this, like, does Kendrick Perkins know something more about Kevin Durant? And I'll be honest with you, I forgot why he's been out. I mean, it's been a while, and nobody's talked about it, but it's been a while since we've heard anything from Kevin Durant about his return, how he's, and I don't even remember what
the injury is.
What the injury is, yeah. Right. Do you remember what the injury is?
I do not. Nope.
Yeah, and he was basically saying, like, based off of his conversation with Kendrick, it was more like he thought Kendrick knew something more than what maybe the Nets are leading on to as far as his injury, as far as his return goes, and hey, is Kevin Durant coming back? How much longer is this going to take? Is Kevin Durant on some PTO time himself? Like what's really going on? So I'll pose this to you. If Kevin Durant doesn't come back, and I don't believe that he's not going to come back, I think at some point he's going to come back. But let's say in the playoffs, it's James Harden and it's Kyrie Irving, and it's no Kevin Durant. And in Philly, you got Embiid coming back, you got Ben Simmons, and then you got all that shooting, on the perimeter, and then you still got Milwaukee, with who they got. Are the Nets going to the finals with just Kyrie and James Harden in that situation? No.
No. I think the Sixers are I would have to say, coaching, roster, they are a better team than the Nets if Kevin Durant doesn't come for playoff time. And for me, but you know what? I still wouldn't I'm still not confident in saying that. I think because here's the thing. James Harden knows how to take control of a team. Now his playoff record doesn't show for it.
I was about to say.
But with a better team around him right now than he's ever had in Houston, maybe that changes. When you got Kyrie Irving, when you got DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin,
Joe Harris.
That's what I'm saying. That's because LeVert is gone too, ain't he?
Yeah, LeVert went to
Indiana. Yeah. but I mean, they got pieces that that are better than the pieces that were in Houston. So I mean, if he got that support to go out and do him, does he do him a little bit better when the defense got other things to worry about? They can't, dedicate to trying to stop James Harden. I can't even say that that's the reason James Harden wasn't good in Houston, but maybe that's different. Maybe that's different. Ben Simmons is known as a good defender. But is he ready for James Harden caliber defend? Is he ready for that? Then you're not gonna tell me Kyrie, if it really came down to it, and in a game 7 between the Sixers and the Nets, and they needed Kyrie to turn up. I got more faith in the playoffs. I got more faith in the guards, and you know me, I believe in the wing player, the guards. When it's time to take over, it's between 3 and 1. One of those positions have to be the people to take over. Unfortunately, I don't believe, because of today's game, Joel Embiid is not going to have the opportunity to take over like that. So who in the playoffs on the Sixers team is going to be the guy that's going to be able to do what James Harden, Kyrie do?
Right. I think Joel Embiid will have opportunities to dominate a stretch of a game here and there. I don't think he's going to be, like you kind of said, in that situation. I don't think Embiid's going to be that.
Yeah.
But I do think Embiid can dominate a quarter here and there.
Sure.
Which might be a difference, which could make a difference in a series. You just never know.
That's true. I just can't believe, like, and let's be clear. I think Joel Embiid will have a good series against the Brooklyn Nets. I think he'll have a, stat wise, he'll have a good series. He'll play well.
Yep.
But when it really comes down, I refuse to believe that he'll have such a good series that when the fourth quarter come around for 4 games, that the Brooklyn Nets won't be in it. So like I said, even if they get 3 games that way where it was good enough, where Joel Embiid's contribution along with the team was good enough, that game 7 in the fourth quarter, I don't believe that the Brooklyn Nets will not be in it. And if they're in it,
right, they'll definitely be in it.
When they're in it, for me, it goes back to either that wing player, that shooting guard, or that that once in a lifetime point guard that could score. That Kyrie Irving is. So now that I'm sitting here fleshing it out with you, I take it back. I still don't think they beat the Nets.
So I had a chance to watch the Sixers a couple times. They played the Knicks twice in the past week, and the Sixers defensively are so good. Like, I mean, I thought I was watching a 90s game between the 2 games that I watched my team go up against that Sixers team. And one of the things that caught my attention, in addition to the defense that they're playing, is that they got shooters that can really, like, knock down shots. Like, I forgot Danny Green was there. He can knock down some shots for you. Tobias Harris, even though he's not necessarily a great 3-point shooter, he can hit the occasional 3 every now and then. And they got a couple other guys there. Seth Curry is there. This kid Thibault. Thibault's not a great 3-point shooter, but he can definitely give you some production off the bench. And Doc Rivers is an excellent coach, by the
Obviously,
way. And I could say what I want about him blowing, 3-1, 3-2 leads, but the reality is that he's coached so long that he's got the experience throughout these playoffs. So I'm not going to, discount that. I don't know that this Nets team with Harden is that much greater than the teams he had in Houston. I'm thinking, well, you got Blake Griffin, and yes, Blake Griffin is a name. DeAndre Jordan is a name, but those guys at this stage in their careers aren't what they were, during the prime of their careers. So are we saying that the Nets are much better than the Rockets teams because of the names that are there, or the production? Because those Rockets teams were very productive. Like even the ones with Westbrook, even that one with Westbrook last year, when Chris Paul was there, Eric Gordon, and when those guys, and even when Clint Capella was a part of that crew before they shipped them off. I thought that was a very productive Rockets squad. They just, the problem was the Warriors were in their way.
Nah, I think Blake Griffin is I think Blake Griffin is a better scorer than everybody that you just mentioned except for Westbrook.
Okay.
Scoring points. Okay. He's a better scorer than everybody you just named outside of Westbrook.
Okay. And what about DeAndre Jordan?
DeAndre Jordan has never been a big time scorer. He defends and he defends the paint and he dunks.
I think Clint Capella is better than DeAndre Jordan. The Clint Capella that I saw in Houston, I think is better than the DeAndre Jordan that I'm seeing in Brooklyn.
Okay, that's yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that, but I also would say that because of the other weapons in Brooklyn, DeAndre Jordan doesn't have to be as good as Clint Capella had to be in Houston.
Mm-hmm. No, I'll give you that.
I think this is just a better team.
So, and I agree with you. I think the Nets are better than those Rockets teams. I just don't know that they're that much better than those Rocket teams. I think it's by this much. I don't think it's by this much.
I think
I was just about to ask you about Eric Gordon. So Eric Gordon with those Rockets teams versus Joe Harris with this Brooklyn team.
Eric Gordon is obviously better to answer your question, but again, I think because they had such a disparity at scoring in Houston, it was when you talk about scoring most of the time, it was James Harden, Russell Westbrook that one year. Chris Paul was a secondary scorer, but then after those secondary guys, there was nobody scoring on them teams. There was literally nobody scoring on them teams. Clint Capella had moments. PJ Tucker had moments, I guess. Eric Gordon was he had to score. He had to score.
And the offense was different in Houston than it is in Brooklyn. Even though D'Antoni is on that staff and Steve Nash is the coach, obviously, so that they are running a similar system. It just doesn't look like what the Rockets were doing, in the last few years.
And then when it all comes down to it, also, I think I trust the Brooklyn team in a playoff series defensively more than I would ever trust any of those Houston supporting cast teams in a playoff series.
Now you said defensively. You said you trust the Nets defensively.
I trust the Nets. I trust the Brooklyn Nets team defensively more than I trust the Houston team defensively in a playoff series. So
got you. Right. Got you.
So.
Gotcha.
So I don't think Brooklyn is a great defensive team to no stretch of the imagination, but I think
that's where I thought you was going.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Gotcha. I don't to no stretch of the imagination, but I think in a game again, and I'm talking about a game 7 against the Sixers because that's where I think it will go. I think that with the offensive pieces they have and the defensive pieces that they do have, I do think that they would be able to play situational basketball to stop whoever the Sixers guy is in the fourth quarter, whoever that guy is.
Yes,
I trust that the Brooklyn team would be able to stop that guy if it's in those pivotal moments of a game 7. So if it's Joel Embiid they trying to get the ball to, I believe in a 5-minute stretch for the game, they would stop Joel Embiid. I don't even know who else you talk about on the Sixers team to win the game.
It's really gonna have to be, and I don't think Ben Simmons is that guy.
Exactly.
But it's going to have to be Ben Simmons, right? It's gonna have to be him. And look, he's one of the better penetrators in the paint that we've seen in the game today. He's one of the better guys that get into the rack.
Yeah.
And they're going to give him space. Like he's going to, are going to give him space because they're going to dare him to shoot, and we know he's not, capable of doing that.
Yep.
I tell you what, don't let that man don't let that man get into a passing or or scoring situation. I wouldn't necessarily sleep on Ben Simmons because he can.
Oh, I'm sleeping on Ben Simmons. I'm sorry, I'm sleeping on Ben Simmons.
That's fine, and that's fine. And I'm saying from the standpoint of you just trying to figure out what he's gonna do. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we know what he's not going to do.
Sure, we know what he's not going to do, but do we know if he's going to run? If he's going to cut to the paint, is he going to find that open guy? Are you going to double him? I believe you don't double him. You play him. You play him 1-on-1. Yeah, right. That's right. You play him 1-on-1, and you guard the perimeter. That's really how you're gonna. That's really how you're going to defend the Sixers.
Then you dare those other guys to make shots. And then here's the other thing. The only guy I trust on that outside to shoot and make clutch shots is Danny Green.
Danny Green, yep.
Yeah, I got the Brooklyn
because he's got that championship.
I got the Brooklyn Nets, bro. I ain't even going to hold you. Because I think it'll go get 7 games. And I think when it comes down to it, there's nobody that's going to take over effectively enough for the Philadelphia 76ers.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll say this. I think if the Nets get to the finals and they have to go through Philly in the conference finals to do so, I think the guy that's going to get them there is Kyrie. I think that's the guy you look at and you say, you need a basket. You need maybe, 3 possessions, 5 possessions in a row where, you're dropping shots. For me, Kyrie, I think, is that guy. Not that Harden can't do it,
right?
And we've talked about his playoff failures in the past, but Kyrie lives for this moment also.
Yeah, but imagine Kyrie doing that, and then they doubling and tripling him, and then they having James Harden, and then him having James Harden to kick out to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See, I trust James Harden to shoot that for wide open 3-pointer.
Or you just play him 1-on-1. Yeah. Or Doc Rivers just decides, you know what? Don't even double these guys. Let's just go 1-on-1. We're one of the better defensive teams in the league. Let's just stick to what we know.
But then who do you put Ben Simmons? Who do you have Ben Simmons guard? Kyrie or James Harden? And because the problem is that whoever you put Ben Simmons on, that next man up got to deal with.
Yeah, whether it's Tobias Harris or a Seth Curry and Tobias Harris.
And let me not waste your time. Tobias Harris nor Seth Curry wants any smoke with James Harden.
Well, I was going to say Tobias Harris is not a great defender.
Yeah.
Individually. And I want to say that because I know the Sixers collectively are a good defense.
That don't mean he's a good defender.
It's not because of him. It's not because of him. So I wanted to, get that straight.
Yeah.
Can we get to some football?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a little bummed that we didn't get Kenny Golladay, but he did sign with the Giants.
Yep.
And they also did get Adoree Jackson to
they signed Adoree Jackson 3 years, like 35
39 million.
39 million. They gave him a bag. They gave him a bag.
So here's my thing with the Giants and the moves that they made. I like the moves that they made.
For sure.
This has got to be the year where Daniel Jones has to take off. When you got Evan Ingram, Sterling Shepard, Saquon Barkley's coming back from his injury. You also got Darius Slayton, who's got some upside, and now you get Kenny Golladay, who is, money when it comes to contested catches. He's just money at that.
We're gonna find out if Kenny Golladay is a number 1 receiver.
Yeah, I mean that too, because I know he's had some injury history also. But for me, this season is gonna start and end with Daniel Jones and whether he's gonna take that next step forward with this group of offensive players. This is probably the best that I've seen the Giants in quite a while in terms of the running back position, the receivers.
Yep.
This is the best that I've seen in a while.
Yep.
It's time.
Yeah.
I'm refraining from calling him Danny Dimes until 2021 where he can, he can improve, and he's got to cut down on the turnovers for me.
Like I said, I know we talked about Daniel Jones for a couple of weeks, maybe. Saquon Barkley's healthy. This is the team. This is a playoff team, I think.
And the Giants.
Saquon Barkley is healthy. If he stays healthy and he's like 80% of what he was,
right.
I think this is a playoff team.
I think if Saquon Barkley has like the 1,600-yard rushing year, they're a playoff team.
I think that's lofty.
If he's that good, you think that's lofty?
I think that's lofty. I think if you give him 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns, they're a playoff team. Good corners.
Okay.
Good corners. Solidified at the nose tackle. Maybe a little. Maybe their weaknesses in the linebacker area where tight ends and running backs can get out behind them. Maybe.
Yeah.
But
Bradbury. They'll get Bradbury back. Yeah.
But they might be a playoff. They might be a playoff team. I
think they'll be in the conversation. I think week 14, week 15, they will be in the
Are they still doing the 7 teams in the playoffs?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, they might.
And I think this may be the year where they add that 17th game.
I did see that somewhere. I did see that they might do that.
Yeah,
I got the Giants might get that 7 seed, man. They might get it.
It's possible. I mean, it's still the NFC East. Obviously, we think the Cowboys are the favorite to win the division. No question about that.
But roster wise, as much as I like the football team's front four, this roster is better. This roster is better. If you could hold that line up for a couple of seconds more to get the ball out of Daniel Jones's hands or soften him up with the run game,
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely see them, contending for that playoff spot. I could definitely see it.
NFC East.
I just think about the likes of Green Bay, Seattle, what San Francisco could potentially be when they get their healthy players back. I think about Tampa and the Saints and the Cowboys. Like I think about those teams.
That's 6 teams.
Right. There's 6 teams, and then you got some of the like questionable ones, like the Rams. Like we don't talk about the Rams, and they just picked up DeSean Jackson for 1 year, I think.
I'm not high on. I ain't gonna lie to you.
And Matt Stafford is there.
Yeah, I'm not super high on the 49ers. I'm just not.
Okay.
I'm not high on the 49ers. I forget the other team you mentioned that I might not be super high on.
Rams.
The Rams. I'm definitely not. And I get it. Matthew Stafford is there. Like they should be. The Seahawks. They have
to win the Super Bowl.
Let me take it back. The Seahawks was the team that I'm not super high on right now.
Okay.
Just another year of having Russell Wilson run for his life. The defense so far hasn't gotten better. Seahawks don't really hold a whole bunch of weight with me. Like right now,
man. That was a 12-win team. That was a 12-win team.
Sure.
Right?
Yep. Where Russell Wilson
did they lose somebody?
Nobody major. Just like I said, another year of a terrible offensive line. Another year of as constructed right now. Another year of a bad defense. They did nothing. I think they might have signed Carlos Hyde to try to help their running game out. Like they did.
Yeah, because they lost what's his name. They lost Chris Carson, right?
I'm not sure who they lost, but I know they just signed somebody. They signed somebody as well. This running game still isn't good. Yep. There is nothing being taken off of Russell Wilson. There is nothing being taken off of Russell Wilson. Meanwhile, the Cardinals and the Rams. The Cardinals. Exactly. Yeah. I'm not high on Seattle right now. I'm not.
Yeah. Well, then that whole division right there is like tough.
I mean, you gotta respect Seattle because they have Russell Wilson. You have to. You just have to.
Yeah.
But
and again, if we're just talking about them coming off of a 12-win season, then I mean, I'm not trying to go up and down the schedule or anything like that, but I mean, you win 12 games with those deficiencies. I can't imagine you being any worse than maybe 10-6, 9-7. Like, if you had no changes to that roster and you didn't lose nobody that significant, then I can't imagine.
Well, I don't know who they lost and didn't lose. I didn't know who they lost. I don't know who they lost and didn't lose. I know, but I do know the Arizona Cardinals got better at pass rush. I do know that.
They got better. Cardinals got better.
I know the Rams are still the Rams.
Better.
Yeah, I'm just talking about that pass rush. I'm just talking about that rushing the passer, meaning getting to Russell Wilson. I know the Cardinals have gotten better. I know the Rams have always been good. And I know the San Fran even though I don't really believe in them, I know their defense is good.
They're gonna get those players back.
I know the offensive line for Seattle is bad.
Yeah. But even you're still talking about 3 teams out of that division. And then we're talking about the Saints, we're talking about the Bucks, we're talking about Green Bay.
You're mostly saying
Dallas.
You're mostly saying why I'm not high on the Seattle to me. Like, they're legitimately on paper, depending on how you want to judge the 49ers. On paper, potentially the Seahawks is the worst team.
I might see that. I mean,
I won't even say potentially. On paper, they're the worst team.
Yeah, I care about the results, and I get what you look like on paper is what you look like on paper.
But you're still basing it on last year too, though.
Yeah, that team is just, they've been doing it for so long. Like they're one of the consistent teams in the league. Like, how much to the playoffs?
Do you think? How long before you think Russell Wilson starts to catch feelings about all this? I mean, we just got finished talking about trade rumors. We have been talking about trade rumors and Russell Wilson since mid-season last year, but now more so than ever, trade rumors and him through his management or whatever saying, "Oh, I wouldn't mind going to Dallas. Oh, I wouldn't mind playing in Chicago." He's releasing these statements.
Right. Yeah, and Russell Wilson was on a couple of radio shows too. Like, he's actually been making appearances and talking and things like that. I don't know if it's him necessarily talking about the football aspect of, the interview, but he's been seen, he's been heard. I still don't believe he's going anywhere. I didn't mention that to say he's going anywhere. I mentioned that to say maybe he wants to go somewhere. And if you don't want to be on the team that you're playing for, that affects your play. Yep. If he doesn't, and that's if he doesn't get the help that he needs, then he's going to be frustrated and eventually he's going to want up out of there.
Everybody knows you can't fix the offensive line in one off season.
Of course.
You just can't do it. Can't. Yeah, you just can't do it.
Of course not.
Okay.
We'll see.
Yeah, for sure. Your man got another contract in the NFC East. Your man Joe Flacco. I know that's your man.
Yeah.
ABM always says that's your man. Of course. I'm just saying your man. I just wanted to put out that your man's got another job. Steelers cut Steve Nelson. They put him on the trading block for a few days, maybe 5 days, close to a week.
Couldn't get nothing.
I won't say they couldn't get nothing for him because I don't know what offers were put out there. I'll say that they didn't get a good deal because I find it hard to believe that nobody wanted Steve Nelson when statistically, we know he wasn't one of the best corners in the league, but stats would suggest that he was one of the better corners in the league last year and the year before. So I find it hard to believe that nobody wanted him. I just don't think Steelers got the compensation they thought they deserved for him. So
I was gonna say maybe nobody. Maybe it's not the fact that nobody wanted him. Maybe it's nobody wanted to give up assets for him.
Yeah, or so whatever the conversation
he's on the
was.
Markets. So he's on the market. Teams want him.
Yeah.
Let's be clear.
Yeah.
Teams want him. So Sammy Watkins was in the building earlier today. Ravens are, looking for wide receivers, and he walked out of there without a contract. So I don't know where that stands. I know he's going to see the Giants tomorrow. And that's crazy because they already got like 4 wide receivers, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, if I'm the Giants, I'm trying to sign Sammy Watkins too. If I can get Sammy Watkins, I'm bringing him in.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about Sammy Watkins. Like, I mean, he's had some injury issues, but if the Ravens ever signed him, then it's like, all right, you know what? That's cool because
you kind of just hope it works out.
Yeah, because Willie Snead, I think, is on his way out.
Mm-hmm.
He's a free agent, and we haven't necessarily re-signed him yet, so he may go someplace else, and we definitely need to replace him because that dude is a third down machine. I just got one more thing, and it's kind of half football related and kind of half entertainment related. So Kanye West has officially, according to reports and social media, become the richest / wealthiest African American in the planet at $6.6
or in
billion
history is what they
mistaken.
said. In history is what they said.
In history, and that's due to the Gap collabo that he's got, along with some other things. Here's what I gotta say, and congratulations to Kanye West for.
Thank you for starting with that. Thank you for starting with that.
Yeah, congratulations to Kanye for having that title. Kanye,
well, I was going to say, I'm sorry. I was going to say just congratulations for having 6.6 billion. I don't give a damn about where that ranks. But go ahead.
I don't either. I don't care where it ranks, but I do care that is a title, for an African American person in this country. But I did want to say this about him being worth that much. Kanye West, at some point, man, I would love for you to think about investing in an NFL franchise. $6.6 billion. I would love to see Kanye West invest in one of these football teams.
Yep.
And I understand that Kanye has had some, some things with the Black community and his dealings with Trump and maybe those dealings with Trump when he was in office that might help him get a team because all the owners have to vote a new owner in, so maybe this helps Kanye's cause. But
I think in that front, Kanye, as much as I would want a Black man or Black person for that matter to own an NFL team in majority, one, let's be clear. I don't believe he has clearly he doesn't have 6.6 liquid.
He doesn't.
Clearly.
No, he doesn't.
Clearly.
He doesn't.
I don't know. I don't know how that would work for him to do it. I would imagine that he has enough assets to be a majority owner with a with an investment team and with all that.
I was gonna say, if you get some investors,
I don't think they would ever vote a nigga like Kanye West, no matter how much ass kissing to white people he's been doing over the past, let's say 5-6 years. I don't think the white boys club would ever, the good old boy club. That's what you call it. They would never, ever vote the likes of Kanye West into that club.
You might be right. Again, whenever
Kanye is still connected to some of the biggest things in African American culture. Yeezys are outside of Jordan. Yeezy is the biggest, tennis shoe. He's still one of the greatest hip hop producers, artists in the world. Like he's still tied to too many nigger things if that makes any sense. and to be let
Sure,
into that club. I just don't think that Kanye West is the candidate for them to accept into that club as a black man. I don't think it's Kanye.
Yeah, well, I mean, you may be onto something. I think you make some good points.
But I hope
there.
I'm wrong. If he ever wanted to get a team, I hope I'm wrong.
Right. And, whenever we have these conversations, we're always talking about, like when we talked about the Washington football team, I had posed a question out there, who's like the most important African-American in DC? We couldn't figure that out.
Damn it. Oh, man, there is a guy in DC, and I forgot his name, but I just happened to see him on Instagram a week ago. And the dude is a legit billionaire, and I can't forget. I'm going to look it up, though.
Okay.
It's a black dude from DC, legit billionaire, and I can't remember his name.
Okay.
I can't remember his name.
Like we have these conversations, and we're always kind of looking for the wealthiest black people to potentially make history by purchasing one of these franchises. Like I hope one day Tyler Perry buys the Falcons one day. Like that's just like a dream of mine. I don't know why it's an actual, dream of mine, but that's something that I hope one day, could happen possibly.
Yeah.
With Kanye, I think you make a great point. There's always this too. The money talks. And if it's one thing that white owners in particularly love, they love themselves money. So and anything to capitalize on something or something, they will hop on it. So Kanye could be involved in all the niggerish things right now. He could still be connected to the hip hop world. He could still be Kanye. But if that money talking and these owners are, looking to make a deal and, get some ownership in there, then
I hear you.
I say there's a chance. I say there's a chance.
There's always a chance. The last thing I got, bruh, and I'll just ask it.
Yep.
DeSean Watson is now facing 16 different women coming out and saying that has been doing whatever he has been doing that was sexually inappropriate. My question at this point, because I'm still not decided, is at how many women have to come out before we are off the he's being set up train?
Well, and I'm glad you brought this up. I don't want to stretch it as long as it needs to get stretched, but my thoughts on it originally was, you can't help but notice that the timing of the allegations is a little, was sketchy. A little off. It's a little sketchy.
Seemed like he being set up.
Little suspect. You can't help but notice that. On the other hand, I'm rooting for, and it's not taking sides here, right? Because if these women were assaulted and their allegations come true, then DeSean Watson has to suffer the consequences. If it turns out that DeSean Watson is innocent and absolved 100% from all of this stuff, then the women that have come forward with these false allegations have to get all the smoke and have to suffer the consequences.
And the fact
what I'm rooting for, what I'm rooting for here is the truth. I want to know what the truth is, because no matter what the truth is, one of these two sides is going to be highly responsible and end up facing consequences as a result of these cases.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to pick sides here, because women that come forward and have a legit case of being sexually assaulted, that should be taken seriously.
Yeah.
I also think that there is a culture, and I'm not saying this is all women, but there is a culture of, what do you call it? Being, a culture of going after guys who have money.
Mm-hmm.
Just looking for a quick payday. There is that culture that does exist.
Yep.
So what I'm looking for is both parties to tell their stories, have their days in court, and whatever jury, judge, whoever, whatever the truth is that comes out, whatever that is, I just want that to just be the final focal point. Is the truth.
All I can
whoever's
do,
whoever's got to suffer the consequences, just let it be that.
Well, I pray for the truth to be unveiled, but as we know in these situations, a lot of times the truth we'll never find out what the truth is.
Yes.
I mean, essentially, DeSean Watson could have possibly never touched any of these women sexually or did anything inappropriate sexually to any of these women. But there is a chance because of whatever's going on in this fucking evil ass world that he gets accused and loses his job and all of those things. And that's something God got to sort out. With that being said, if he did it, everything he got coming to him, he deserves it. If he didn't do it, I hope that these women get some type of pay some type of a cost for it. And lastly, if DeSean Watson is being set up by not just these women, but a faction that is paying these women to say these things because the cost of lying about those things aren't high at all.
Right.
I hope that faction gets what they deserve. And I ended on that note.
Yeah. And I'll just end it with this. In the beginning of all this, there was a conflict of interest that the lawyer that first brought these allegations to the table was either a neighbor or some other affiliation with someone from the Houston Texans ownership group. So you have that kind of conflict there. The other conflict is that this lawyer stated that he went to the Houston police with this report, and I saw this tweet the other day from the Houston Police Department that confirmed and stated that that guy had never sought out the Houston Police Department ever. So obviously there's somebody's lying about something.
Like in every situation,
those groups.
Like in this situation, every single time somebody's lying and somebody's telling the truth. And really more often true than that, there's one story, there's one side, there's the other person's side, and then there's the truth. So I mean, take what you will.
Of course. Hey, I want to give a shout out to Chief Rock of Jersey Vern in the chat. Also,
what's happening?
RC came up in here also, and I saw
prayers for you, man.
Too,
we be seeing you on Facebook, man. Prayers for your situation.
Yeah.
I won't say it. Just prayers for your situation.
Yeah. But he did tell me earlier today that he's not out of the woods, but he is doing much better, and he is at home.
Good.
So that's a great thing. So shout out to you, RC. And shout out to everybody that's been listening and watching us on Facebook Live and on YouTube Live. Just don't forget, folks, you can continue to follow us on the Facebook page. If you know somebody that's not hooked up to us, just tell them to hit the like button.
Tell a friend to tell a friend.
Yep, and also for YouTube, if you're a YouTube user, make sure you subscribe to our channel as we have our lives there also. Check us out on social media at Barbershop Sports Talk Podcast, also on Twitter at Barbershop SPOR2. And also we are on these platforms as a podcast. You can listen to us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Google Play. And just one more thing before we head out. If you got any questions or comments about the show, you can hit us up on email at barbershopsportstalk1@gmail.com. So if Maestro, you got nothing else, man, I got nothing else. So y'all have a good week. We're going to be back next Tuesday giving you that sports talk. Y'all have a good night. Peace.